Welcome again, my friends, to the Fat Man's revisitation of the space opera system produced by the Fantasy Games Unlimited circa 1979-1980, early 80s. This particular module is called the Martigan Belt, an adventure in the asteroid. Now, as I said in my previous, when I did the one on Ronson, there are ways of making good modules and there are ways of making bad modules, and frankly, these are bad, poorly designed, poorly developed modules. This is probably one of the worst yet, as far as I'm concerned. It's completely misleading to begin with, right? Because it implies you're having adventures in the asteroids, but nothing in the rulebook sets that up. Nothing in the source book sets that up. The other problem with it is typical of these early modules, especially from these secondary game companies, was the lack of creative verbiage, in my opinion. While I'm not over, I like a little bit of fluff, a little bit of story, a little bit of lead up to why are we here and what are we doing, even if it's just brief. When you have nothing to work from, it makes it much harder to figure out exactly what's going on. They go straight into the stats and stuff we need. There's a vague concept for the background. Basically, you're employed by the Janus Mining Company, has received the following coded message from accompanying mining vessels. We are under blah 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 blah. They think something has gone wrong, or somebody sabotaged some problem, and the ship's gone down somewhere else on the planet. So you're assembled a team. What your team can't come up with, the Star Master is encouraged to, and they provide stats and stuff for some NPCs to fill in the blanks. So you have a specific group of specialists, including a geologist specialist and some armsmen, pilots to drive the vehicle and fly the ship that they're going to loan to the shuttle they're going to loan to the group. You got a lot of information on the system itself, but very little actual material that gives you an idea of what you're trying to accomplish. So you're really left out in the cold here as a Star Marshal, a Star Master, including, matter of fact, it stipulates, welcome to the universe of space opera. Space opera presents more than a complex set of rules than average, but also more complete. That's not an apology, since life is also complex. Yet, as complex as the undertaking as working on the adventures and scenarios have been, I might have forgotten or glossed over some things. For any such omission, I too apologize. In the interest of good star mastering, I urge you to read this booklet carefully and to spend some time thoroughly familiarizing yourself with everything presented herein before attempting to run players through the adventure. Space opera is an expanding universe which I hope to have sparked or retained your interest. Okay, so even at the very beginning of the introduction, the writer of this particular module acknowledges he's left a lot of stuff out, or didn't do as good a job as he felt he could have done. So either they should have not published this and gone back and did a second or third draft till we got to the point where it made more sense, or never put this part in. Don't acknowledge that you did some ship-shoddy work or that questionable quality of your material. I had the question in my mind, what was going on through FGU's head, its main editor or editors at the time, that said, okay, well, this is good enough, we'll just print it and sell. Let the people figure it out. Because it really set a low bar for everything else, and I don't think that's a good thing. I mean, there's a lot of it, don't be wrong, there's a lot of information in here. A lot of good stuff in here that's usable. But it really leaves you out in the wind trying to figure out exactly, how to approach this, how to handle it, how to deal with it. There's not even a really good list of potential other scenarios. You've got one scenario presented to you, and you have a bunch of a collage of stuff that you might find useful. I read this and reread it. I know when I bought it, I think this is one of the reasons I didn't buy very many more modules. I bought a handful of them. Some of them were good. The Casino Galactus, for example, is a very good one. Rowan is good because it's lousy because it does the same problem. It doesn't set you up well. It doesn't set the GM up easily. It's not something you can just pull off the shelf and run in an afternoon. You have to really plan for it. This one you can't run at all without working your own stuff up. And you're going to try to play it from the hip, you're going to be at a very strict disadvantage doing so. It doesn't fit the standard formula for modules, adventure modules of any sort. The big problem is, among other things, like I said, a lack of cohesion, a lack of pure, just lazy work in some aspect, no fluff whatsoever. In Rowanson 3, at least it has a really wicked twist. You think you're in the process of doing it's all in Rowanson. It's all about the same adventure. There's pretty much no other scenarios other than what's presented. But halfway through it, when you think you've successfully delivered the cargo, a bunch of asteroids hit the planet, and meteors hit the planet, and you're now in a fight for pure survival. And it's a complete twist. And there's enough information in it to give you workable stuff. This one, first off, like I said, most of this is evolving around a specific planet. You're not even in the asteroids. You're not dealing with the asteroids. There's no rules in here for them. There's no examples. There's no options. There's nothing. And which is sad because there was so much potential just based off of what I see on the cover. I expected a lot more options than what came up. So when I got it and I looked at it, I never played it. I can be honestly tell you, I'm pretty darn sure I never utilized this particular one. Because when I threw up on the shelf, more or less in disgust, and said, "What the hell? Oh, what made you guys even think this was a good one to publish?" I mean, if you look at the back, this content is a static garbled message received by the company from one of their mining vessels in the asteroid belt. Your team of specialists have been assembled by all companies to determine what happened to the vessel and whether sabotage was involved, as the message team supplied. But included in this scenario are full stats on the system in great detail, the planet Martigan III. The system map shows locations of the lost mining ship and the IP bases in the belt. Provisions exist for venturing on Martigan III, exploring other planets in the system, determining what went on with the lost ship, and mining the asteroids, which is false. That's actually not true. There is no really good information other than what's in the mechanic stats in this stuff. Because other than that, there's no fill-in, there's no explanations, there's very little information, and most of it's dominated by the planet. And just why bother including all this stuff on these critters when your player character is supposed to be going out into the asteroid belt to track down this damaged vessel, find out what happened to it, figure out what caused the problem, and they don't give you anything to work with. There's not even an example of or suggestions as to who or what might be behind the sabotage. And it's all left up to the Star Master to come up with out of your boot heels. So this is Rank Amateur 101. Rank Amateur 101. We all have done this kind of stuff for our own games because in our head, we know what we have planned out. And we can play them scenarios out in our head. We don't have to write the scenarios down. We just need the basic material stats. And that's what this fellow did. He come up with a game he played. He put out his stuff. But he didn't tell us what was going on in his head, which he would have done to his players when he played, if he ran this for his group. A sad, sad example of an adventure module. Terrible. Terrible. I would never recommend buying this other than because of it's so terrible. It's an example of what not to do if you're trying to actually publish a physical thing, right? And I'm telling you, this sort of stuff did not help FGU at the end of the day. It probably soured some people and made some other people grimace and think, really? Really? I'm just saying, right? So, there you have it. Me, from the Fat Man and the Fat Cat, one for the trash bag as far as I'm concerned.